You ever notice how the simplest stories, the ones we maybe heard as kids, are the ones that hide the deepest truths? Well, today, we're going to unpack the moral blueprint hidden inside some of these ancient fables. We're going to see what timeless lessons they hold for our lives, our work, and yeah, even our destiny. So, this line right here, this is really the core idea that weaves through all of these stories. It basically means fortune always favors the hardworking. And that's a powerful thought, right? That luck isn't just something that happens to you, it's something you actually earn. Let's dig in and see how these old tales make their case. All right, here's our roadmap for this whole thing. First, we'll talk about the wisdom packed into these fables. Then we'll explore the two big paths, the path of effort and what happens when you're tested on true value. After that, how character literally forges destiny. And finally, we'll get into why these lessons have stuck around for so long. Now, these are not just cute stories about talking animals. You gotta think of them more like, well, like ancient user's manuals for life. They're moral blueprints designed to teach us how to get through the world with a little bit of wisdom and integrity. It's a pretty compelling thought, isn't it? What if everything we needed to know was right there, all along? Together, let's see if we can unpack these stories and find those secrets, those timeless advice on what it really takes to build a good, meaningful life. So, at the heart of pretty much every one of these fables, there's this one fundamental choice. It's the classic conflict, right? The path of diligent, honest work versus the alluring promise of a shortcut, a promise that you'll see almost always turns out to be a trap. And you can see this conflict play out so clearly in the characters. On one side, you have people like Chendu, the hardworking friend or the youngest son. They represent honest labor. And on the other side, you've got the schemers, like Nandu or the thieving brothers, always chasing that illusion of easy riches. It's a total battle of substance versus shortcut. But, these stories are telling us that it's not just about hard work. It's also about wisdom. Our heroes, they're always getting tested. They're forced to look past the flashy, glittery stuff and recognize what actually holds true, lasting value. Okay, so in one story, our hero's on a quest for a golden bird. A magical fox is his guide, and he gives him one critical piece of advice. When you find the bird, put it in the simple wooden cage, not the shiny golden one sitting right next to it. See, the golden cage, that's a trap for the greedy. And then, what do you know? He faces the exact same kind of test again. To win a magical horse, he's told to use the plain leather saddle, not the magnificent golden one. I mean, the lesson couldn't be any clearer. Real value is often found in the humble, not the fancy-looking stuff. The lesson here is so consistent. True worth is rarely on the surface. These fables reward the characters who choose substance over style, and they punish anyone who gets blinded by the superficial glitter of gold. And every single one of these choices, big or small, has a consequence. This brings us to probably the most powerful lesson in all of these fables. The idea that a person's inner character directly creates their destiny, for better or for worse. Just look at the story of the woodcutter. He's given a magic, wish-granting bell. Awesome, right? But as his wealth grows, his character just decays. He becomes arrogant, he's unkind. The second he turns away a beggar in need, poof, the magic dies, and his fortune just vanishes. It wasn't the bell that failed him, it was his own character. And remember Nandu, the impatient friend? He was literally handed a wish-fulfilling plant, but because it just looked like a simple, worthless little seedling, he tossed it away in a fit of anger. His greed and his lack of patience made him throw away the very thing that could have given him everything. But then, in sharp contrast, you have the youngest son. Because he chose the humble wooden cage, because he listened to good advice and just kept going, he didn't just win the bird. His character and his choices, they earned him a magical horse, a princess, and eventually an entire kingdom. So this is the ultimate lesson these fables are screaming at us. Your future isn't just some random game of chance. It is the direct result of who you are, of the integrity you have, and the choices you make every single day. Character, they argue, is destiny. So why are we still telling these stories? Why have they survived for literally centuries? It's because their central conflicts and their moral lessons, they're universal. They give us a simple but really powerful blueprint for how to live a good life, and it's just as relevant today as it was 1,000 years ago. So here it is, the ancient blueprint laid out for us. Value real effort over those easy shortcuts. Recognize that true worth isn't usually the shiny thing. Understand that humility is actually a strength. Remember that your choices show who you really are. And know that your character, at the end of the day, is what decides your fate. These are the rules, a timeless guide for all of us. And that brings us to the final thought, doesn't it? These fables, they're not really about fictional characters. They're mirrors. They lay out two paths, one of integrity and effort, the other of greed and illusion. And they kind of force us to ask ourselves a very simple but a very, very important question.